Want to welcome all you guys here. I know it's been a long time since we've done one of these, and normally I try and do these during the week, but my Thursdays have just been completely blowing up on me. So I thought, well, we'll do this on Saturday and see, if that's a good time for you guys as well. And obviously, a few of you have made time on a Saturday to be here. So this will be our second part of our series on really identifying and then disputing credit report errors. And either the credit bureaus will fix them or they'll delete them, or you can be in a position to sue them. And so, what we want to do with this particular session is not go over everything that we did before, but just kind of quick summary and then get into how do we draft the dispute letter? How do we like literally write the dispute letter? And there is a template that I have for you. And that's something, I mean, I get, multiple emails a day. Hey, do you have a template? A template is just a tool. It can help, but you really have to understand why we're disputing something for the dispute letter or dispute template to make any sense if you want it to be effective. So just a quick summary we talked about last time. We want to pull our real reports, primarily from annualcreditreport.com. And then we go through those accounts, those negative accounts, and we say, are there errors on there? In other words, can I dispute this account? And then we say, okay, I can dispute. Should I dispute? Because anytime you dispute, I don't care if it's one 30-day late payment from 4 years ago, the credit bureau and the furnisher, the data furnisher, Citibank, Discover Card, whoever, they always have the option to just delete the account. And you can't say, well, wait, I want to dispute, but I don't want you guys to delete. No, they always have the option to delete. So we only dispute things that we would be happy if they were deleted. And we'd be happy if they were fixed. And if they're not deleted, not fixed, then we can look at suing them. Okay. So can you guys see this? This is a page of an Equifax report. Let me just make sure that that is popping up on the screen here for you guys. Okay. So this is one that we used last time. And if you missed the last webinar, you can find it on my YouTube channel or just email me. I'll send you the link to it. What I've done in this is just marked it up on an iPad. You can print it out, mark it up, and scan it in. You can use almost any PDF type program. Actually, it looks a lot neater than the way that I did it here. I just did this sort of quick and dirty, just a few minutes ago to just to show you guys what this looks like. So we can do it in a very simple way. And this is sort of the Warren Maxwell approach. Print out your report, circle stuff, draw arrows, and you can do it that way. You can, like I said, use an iPad, a tablet. You can use almost any PDF program, and accomplish the same thing. What's the point here of what we're trying to do? Well, we're trying to show the credit bureau what's wrong. So our letter is telling them what's wrong. This is showing them. So think back to elementary school. We have show and tell. So, we might say, here's what, I don't know, a veterinarian does. And here's, let me show you some tools that a veterinarian uses. Well, same thing with the credit bureau. We want to tell them exactly what's wrong, but we also want to show them. Well, why? Well, because it makes it harder for them to sort of wiggle out of doing what they're supposed to do. See, if we just give them the marked up report here, then they go, well, we don't know. What do you mean by that? Or if we just give them a written document, even though it's bogus, they can say, well, we can't read English. Okay, kind of silly, but like never underestimate what the credit bureaus will argue. But if you give them both, it's really hard for them to say, well, I was confused. What did you mean? And so what we've got on here is you can see we've got balance, available credit, scheduled payment. This is an Equifax report. And we've just circled the things that are missing. Now, in 23, it would be through whatever month we're doing this, okay? And then the next page, you can see more of this sort of missing information. And then Let's see here. I'm not sure if I can make this bigger. Hopefully you can see it. It says May of 21 charged off account. But if you look at May of 21, it says it's got a little green check mark, current. Kind of hard to explain that discrepancy there. Okay, so we've got something circled here, November of 21. If we go to the next page, we see they say that's the date of the first delinquency. So date of first delinquency is the date we first go 30 days late and never bring it current. Well, look at this. November 21 says we're current. That's not the date of first delinquency. Okay. So either it is the date and this payment history is wrong, or the payment history is right and this part down here is wrong, this date of first delinquency. There are things like date closed, they're missing, creditor classification unknown. Okay. And so this is just an example. It's not every error, but this is an example of the types of errors we're looking for, things that are just flat out wrong and things that are incomplete or missing. Now, let me show you another report. And actually, we'll go through four quick reports and then we'll talk about what's the theory of how we are trying to write a dispute letter. And then I'll share a Word document with you guys. So let's look at this one. And the main thing I want you to see here is if you can read under account status, it says over 120 days past due. Okay, so let's look at the payment history. Well, there is no 120 days. And even if there was 120 days, that's not going to match because this account status says over 120 days, more than 120 days. So if it only said 120 here in the payment history, that would not be enough. The fact is, it's just wrong. So it could be we were never more than 120 days late. And so that account status needs to be corrected. Or maybe we were. And then the payment history needs to be corrected. And see, the credit bureau could go, well, that'll make it worse. Well, it doesn't matter if it's better or worse. I want it to be accurate. It's my credit report. I get to have my credit report be accurate. I don't give permission to the credit bureaus to make it wildly inaccurate as long as it helps me. And they make this argument with a straight face. And here's the sort of the counter argument that they cannot overcome. Imagine if I stole Warren Maxwell's identity, okay? And I open up an Amex credit card, or let's take a different Discover credit card, $20,000 credit limit. And I kept it at $1,000 and every month I paid it off. So think about that. 20,000 in credit limit and only 5% is being used, $1,000. And let's say I do that year after year after year. So he's got a nice credit card account that is hardly utilized. It's never been late. It's got some good age on it. And he discovers it and says, hey, that's not mine. Okay. So, Warren's like, hey, maybe I don't want to dispute this, but let's pretend Warren disputes this. It says, hey, this is not my account. And he goes through all the steps and they go, well, we're going to keep it anyway because it makes your score go up. So therefore, we can keep any false information. No, see, that's not the law. The law is I get to have my credit report be accurate and complete. Okay. And what that does from a scoring model standpoint, and first of all, that's sort of a mythical thing. There is no one credit score. There's dozens of credit scoring models. So under one scoring model, if you keep an account or remove an account, it may make your score go up, but under another scoring model, it may come down. So the credit bureaus like to say, oh, well, this helped your credit score. It's a nonsensical statement because there is no one credit score. Okay. There are multiple credit scores, all different types. All right. So here we see an example, it says over 120 days late. If you can read this part, date open, that's circled here on the right-hand side, and then we've sort of drawn some arrows here about there's missing data here, okay? So let me just show you another one, and then we'll get to looking at the actual dispute letter. So this is one that it says paid, And then recent payment, there's nothing there. All right. And then for high balance, there's nothing there. And you can see all these ND. This is Experian report under payment history. ND means no data. Well, if you don't have any data, that's incomplete. And look at what they say here for January of 21. They say no data, but in the payment history, they say 60 days late. Now, how do they know that? How do they know it's 60 days late in January if they have no data there? Okay. So this is inaccurate. It's incomplete. We'll look at a final one, will be TransUnion. And so look at this last payment made. It gives a date. Let's just assume that's true. Well, how much did we pay? Zero. You can't pay zero. Zero ain't a payment. Okay. So either we did not make a payment on that date, and therefore it's wrong, or we did make a payment on that date, and it has to be more than zero. So either way, something is wrong with this. All right, let's look, see what else we've got. You can see it's got a bunch of missing data. If you look up in the code for, I'm not talking about some Metro 2 code, I'm talking about within the TransUnion report, the actual report from annualcreditreport.com, it explains what all these words mean. PRL is profit loss write-off. So the very first month they have, they say we're okay, and it's a profit loss write-off. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't make any sense at all. And so they're missing all this stuff. And then let's see, like you can see they have, balance, past due, amount paid, remarks, rating, and then for November 21, it's just all gone. Like nothing is there. Okay. And same thing for June of 22. It's just completely missing. Well, what's the balance? TransUnion says, we have no idea. What's the past due? What's the amount paid? What's the remarks? They're like, we have no earthly idea. Okay. So I wanted you to see these to just to remind you of what some of these errors can be. And then let's talk about how it works with the dispute letter. Let me check the comments here. So Murley says, Bank of America sent a letter indicating they've ceased reporting payment history in response to my previous dispute regarding inaccuracies. How can I proceed to respond to this development? So if we're talking about like what we have on the screen, this payment history, uh, let me give you sort of two versions of what they may mean. One is literally the payment history. If we go back to, for example, this Equifax, this is the payment history. All right. So it's just the rating. Are you current? Are you 30, 60, 90, 120, et cetera? Other times by payment history, they may mean something like with TransUnion, where it's this balance, past due, amount paid, remarks, rating. Okay, sometimes this is called the trended data or the historical data. The more accurate terminology is the trended data. Sometimes when we dispute this, they will just take this off. Okay. Well, my position is instead of making my account more accurate, more complete, they made it less complete. Okay. And if I've asked them for what's known as my file disclosure, then it's a problem if they have this data and they're not giving it to me. So let me back up to, I think I've got it on this Equifax report. Yeah, again, this may, I'm not sure how big this is popping up here, but the first thing I have highlighted is you have the right to know what's in your file. You may request and obtain all information about you in the files of a consumer reporting agency, your file disclosure. Now, they'll pretend that your credit report is your file disclosure. It's not, okay? There may be all sorts of stuff that they don't give, for example, to creditors that is still in your file disclosure or should be in your file disclosure. So that's one way we do it. And you'll see with the dispute letter, we've asked for this information as well. Warren says, what they claim it's not a material error. The problem is that that's really not a concept in the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay. And I would not sue over, one, like the most minute thing. Okay. What we're typically finding, at least when I sue, is we're saying, hey, look, here's an error. This May 21st, this date of first delinquency is an error. Hey, you're high credit. You shouldn't have a credit limit because it's charge off. Why don't you know the terms frequency? See, it's date of last payment at the bottom of the screen, amount of payment that's missing, and you don't know what type of creditor it is. You say it's closed, but you don't know the date. See up here, we'll back up. It's well, I redacted it, but it says closed. And then look at all these errors. So, we start adding these up. They want to say, Judge, it's just an immaterial error, which is sort of meaningless. But when we start saying, well, there's 2 errors on the balance for 21 and then 12 for 22, so that's 14. And then here we are in June. So it's another 6 and 20. So there's 20 errors. And then this is even more. And then you've got all of this under scheduled payment and under actual payment, high credit limit amount. So we start adding this up. So when we file these lawsuits, we'll say, we pointed out 147 errors to Equifax on the Capital One account. And after investigating it, they still kept 138 errors on the Capital One. It's hard when we can stack all these up on each other, okay? And let's see here. Murley says, decision to delete account typically rests with the original creditor, right? Not the credit bureau. Well, they can. The credit bureau has the absolute right to just delete the account, okay? And the furnisher, whether that's the creditor or the debt collector, they have the right to just, boom, delete the account. So it's either one can delete it, okay? But if they're going to report the account, it must be accurate and complete. So let's talk a little bit about the dispute letter here. And let me see here if I can share this. Okay, so there should be something popping up on your screen. I don't know exactly how this works if you're on a phone, but you can always email me and I'll send it to you. But there should be something where you can click on it and it's a Word document. Okay. And let me get this pulled up here. And we will see if we can make this work. Okay, so yeah, I may have to switch this to another screen. Give me just a moment. All right, so hopefully this will work. And so you should see a Word document on the screen. Let me know if you guys are seeing this or not. So just let me know if you're seeing. Okay, Warren says yes. All right, thank you, Warren. So let's talk sort of theory first, and then we'll get into the details. There's nothing magical about any dispute letter. Okay, despite people who want to sell you dispute letters, say, "Oh, I got the greatest dispute letter, I have the secret formula." There is no secret formula. The only purpose of a dispute letter is to let the credit bureaus know what you're disputing and why you're disputing it. That's it. Okay. Now, we also do a few other things related to that, but that's the core purpose of it, the primary purpose of it. And there is no magic language to use. It doesn't matter if you bold stuff, if you put yellow highlighting, if you use it in Times New Roman or Courier, like none of that matters. Okay. And there are people who get obsessed about, well, use a certain color ink or certain color page. Don't worry about that. Okay. That's all ridiculous. Just do a letter that clearly explains what you're disputing and why you're disputing it. Okay. And now, when I say why you're disputing it, you can point out, hey guys, you say this over here and then this over here. Well, obviously, like you're asking them to figure out, like, well, which one is correct? Okay. You can't have two things that are incorrect here. And I've used this before. This is the Raising Arizona method of disputing, which is it's a silly movie from the I'm sure like the mid 80s. And in Raising Arizona, John Goodman walks into a bank with a gun and says, "Everybody freeze! Everybody on the ground." Nobody does anything. And there's this old guy in overalls with his hands sort of hooked into his overalls. He's like, "Well, which one is it, young fella? Should I freeze? I can't get on the ground. Should I get on the ground? Then I'll be in motion." All right. Pretty good question, right? Like you're asking me to do two contradictory things. Well, when the credit bureaus put things that are contradictory, we can raise those, point those out, and say, which one is it? All right. If they're missing information, we say, hey, you're missing this information. So there's no magical way to do this. And what I have here in this letter is, you put the date, okay, and then put the credit bureau, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, NFS, whoever it is. The reason I don't already load in the addresses is this is how we do it. Even though we send out an unbelievable number of dispute letters, we always look at the credit report because every credit report says if you want to dispute, if you want to contact us in writing, use this address. We don't assume what we did yesterday is still a valid address. Take whatever's on the credit report, use that. Just copy and paste it. Okay. If you've got this scanned in, literally copy and paste it. All right. There's a lot to be said about copying and pasting. And so we put that in here. Let's just look at what we've got. And then we'll go to kind of the heart of this, which is the dispute. So I need my full file disclosure. I want you to report stuff 100% accurate and complete. So I want you to make my personal or biographical information correct. All right. So it's very simple. Just here's my name, here's other variations, here's my date of birth, my social security. Now, if you're dealing with, for example, Experian and they have a social security variation, our approach is then we list out our full social and we include our social security card. But for everybody else, or if there's no issue with their social security, we just include the last four numbers. Then we do our address, our phone number. Now, obviously, if you need to explain something like, I just moved to this house yesterday. Well, then put where you used to live. If your driver's license doesn't have your correct address, well, put something that does. Maybe explain that. Hey, I haven't updated my driver's license, but here's my utility bill for my new apartment that I've been at for 6 months, whatever it is. I mean, obviously, like we have to think through this as we do it. We just want to make it clear. And then we're saying, hey, do a proper investigation. And there's contradictory, incomplete, incorrect information. I don't know if it's because the furnishers who are unreliable or whether it's your fault. Okay. But fix it. All right. Make each account complete and accurate and verifiable, or delete the entire account. All right. And then we say, hey, I'll identify these. We'll come back to this part in a minute. And then here's the last part. Send me a copy of the investigative results and a complete copy of my complete file. Okay. And by complete file, I mean everything you have on me, including inquiries made, hard and soft pulls with the reason, copy of certification made by each user. Make sure you give me everything you have on me. Do not leave anything out. All right. So why are we kind of being repetitive here? Because they always leave stuff out. And they'll say, well, I didn't know you wanted everything when you said, I want everything. So we say, I want everything, in half a dozen different ways, right? And then we say, hey, look, if you're not going to fix everything or delete everything, then put this 100-word statement. And obviously you have to, is this Equifax, Experian, NFS, TransUnion, somebody else? I mean, plug that part in, right? And then we say, I want the method of verification. What did you do here? And then this part is just your signature. Now, some people like to leave, this bolded part. Others will take this out. It doesn't really matter. You just make it the way you want it. The point is, make sure you are identifying who you are, and so that you make it easy. And I'll say this, if your name has changed, if you used to be Susie Smith and now you're Susie Jones and you became Susie Jones a week ago, don't just say, well, I, never heard of Susie Smith. No, and I'm also known as Susie Smith. Okay. If you have accounts that are still in a previous name, like put all the forms of your name down. Okay. Yeah. Like my legal name is John, but if it was Jonathan, I would say my name is Jonathan Watts. It's also John Watts. We want to give them the variations that we use. Okay. And because we want to not give them any excuse to say, well, I can't find you. Okay. And then for enclosures, we have our ID. Usually it's going to be a driver's license, could be a passport, military ID. Maybe we have a state issued ID that's not a driver's license. Proof of address, usually that's going to be, a utility bill. That's preferable, but it could be other things. And then pages from the credit reports. And let me go back to the comment. Murley says, do you use this letter as evidence in the court when you file a lawsuit? Yes. So typically what we do is we will copy the letter and we redact stuff, okay, because a court file is a public filing. And we'll plug that into the lawsuit and say, here's what we disputed about whatever, the Verizon wireless account, the Bank of America account. And then here's what they did or did not do with that. All right. So we want to make this so that a judge can see, yeah, we identified the errors. That's also why we do the show and tell, right? So we've got the credit report that's marked up and we have our letter. Okay. So before I get into the details here, let me know if this makes sense. So we're starting off the letter with saying, hey, I want complete, accurate information. Here's my information. And then, at the end of this, we say, I want my complete file. I want to know what you guys did in your investigation, your method of investigation. You identify who you are. And all that leaves us with is the account or accounts that we are disputing. Okay. So let's talk about how we actually do this. Okay. So, you can do this however you want. Some people like to take this and, make it much bigger there. We got accounts, or maybe you center that. Uh, but whatever you do, you just want to make it easy to read. So let's say that this is a Capital One. All right. So it's kind of a pain doing this, try to copy and paste on it. Okay, so I'm just going to type a lot of this. We'll say this is account number 1234566, and the balance is $4,567, and it was open, 01, 05, 2015. Okay, so you can put more details here. Okay, I would use the exact language that the credit report uses. So if TransUnion, if we want to put the status, if they call it the pay status and somebody else calls it the account status, like change it to make it fit exactly what that credit bureau is. You just want to make it very clear what account you're talking about. You don't want the credit bureaus to have the excuse, oh, well, Your Honor, we thought he was talking about the other Capital One account that had never been late. And so when he's talking about things being late, we just disregarded it. No, we want to say, here's when it was open, the balance. Typically we put the account status. I mean, normally on these, we'll have maybe 6 or 7 different fields or places of information. But the major point is just capture whatever you want to make it clear what account you're talking about. And let me show you, well, I think I may mess this up, but if you look on the Equifax report, so like revolving accounts are in section 2. They have like 2.1 might be Capital One, and 2.2 is JP Morgan Chase, and 2.3 is Regions Bank. You can grab that whole identifier. So 2.1 or 2.2, that's showing where it is on their credit report. But you just want to make it extremely clear what you're disputing, okay, which account. And then in terms of what we are saying is wrong, we just type it. Okay. Now, obviously, if you run a credit repair place, you probably don't want to do this manually every time. You're going to have to develop some templates or some automation. But this is primarily designed, this webinar, for folks who want to do this on your own. And so if you will go through your own reports, identify the negative accounts, identify the errors physically or with a pen on your tablet or with, Adobe or whatever your PDF viewer editor of choice is. If you will, circle, put blocks around, draw arrows, mark up your page so that you know better than anybody in the world, you know exactly what the errors are on the Capital One account or the Discover account or whatever it is. Then you just have that open. Now, again, I can't do it with multiple screens here, or it probably make you sick, flipping back and forth. But on your own computer, if you have two screens, that's great. Or if you have this stuff printed out, you go, all right, well, I got this here. Let me look at it. All right. There's these 5 errors with the payment history. Let me type it in. So we may say something like, remember that one account, it said, um, you claim the account status or whatever it was called. We'll get the exact language, was over 120 days past due. But in the payment history, the latest you show is 90 days. How can both of these be correct? Which one is right? Which one is wrong? Are they both wrong? Fix this or delete the entire account. Now, we've set up above, if you don't fix or delete every single error, you must delete the account. I sometimes like to literally put it after each error just to remind them, fix the account or delete the account, okay? Now, maybe we say uh, under the payment history, you have ND, which I understand is no data. So now I'm talking about from an Experian credit report for the months of January to May. I don't remember exactly, but you get the gist. 2023. Why don't you have any data for these months? Why is the data missing? Fill in all the data or delete the entire account. Do you see the pattern here? We're grabbing every error. There's no magic language, okay? And again, the people that say, "Oh, well, there's an exact way you have to say it," they're trying to sell you something, okay? The FCRA does not say you have to use a certain word. There's no case law that says you have to use a certain word. All judges care about is, have you made it clear? Well, let's go back and look at what we've written here. You claim the account status. Well, remember, we'd have the account status circled, was over 120 days past due. Okay, maybe that should be is over 120, whatever you want to do. But in the payment history, so we have like a line going down to the payment history, we say the latest you show is 90 days. All right. So really, that's clear enough, right? But what we're doing here is going kind of even above and beyond that to say, how can both of these be correct? How can it be over 120 days, but yet less than 120 days? Which one's right? Which one's wrong? Are they both wrong? And it's kind of like we say when two people are arguing, at least one person's wrong. Could be both, right? They both could be terribly misguided here. So under the payment history, you have ND, no data for the months of January to May 23. Why don't you have any data? Why is the data missing? It might be, remember on the TransUnion report, you say the date of last payment was, 09, 01, 2021, but on the amount of the payment, you list 0. How can a payment be 0? That makes no sense. If I could type, makes no sense to me. Actually, my external keyboard, the keys are not quite working so great here. So let me come up here. How do you explain this? Is the date correct? Is the amount correct? Are you seriously saying I paid 0? Fix this or delete the entire account. So you start to see the pattern here. We're taking each little thing here. Remember Equifax, a lot of times under creditor classification, it says unknown. So you type, for creditor classification, you have unknown. Why don't you know what type of creditor this is? If you don't even know what type of creditor this is, delete the whole account if you're not going to correct this, okay? Or Equifax has, it'll say up top in parentheses, closed. And then you come down to the date close at the very bottom right, okay, of the account history, and it'll be blank. Not always, but usually. You say, well, up here you say it's closed, but down here you don't have a date. If it's closed, you must have a date. Put in the date or delete the entire account. So we just go through methodically through every single error, okay? And it always amazes me when I hear people say, well, make sure your dispute letter is not more than 2 pages long. That's absurd, okay? We've had dispute letters on one account that have been 20 pages long. It's unusual, but it's possible. Typically, we're disputing maybe 10 accounts in a letter. And so it's going to be, 15 to 20 pages long. Maybe there's a page, page and a half for each account because we're just going through methodically. All right. So again, think about like Equifax report. We say under the account balance, you are missing, we might say 2021 January to December 2022, May and August, and all of 2023 through the current date. Okay. Yeah, you could like lay those out, right? You could type out you're missing uh, January 2021, you're missing February 2021, March 2020. You can do it however you want. You just want to make it clear. And we're just putting into the letter all the things that are wrong so that the credit bureau has no excuse. Now they know this stuff is wrong, right? I mean, look at what we have here. Um, this idea of it says over 120 days, but the latest it shows is 90. Are we seriously thinking the credit bureaus have no computers? Nothing to go, hey guys, this stuff doesn't make sense here. If you try to use TurboTax and you say, I've got 2 kids, and you plug in one kid's information, and you've claimed 2 as dependents, and then you try to skip the second one, it's going to go, no, 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 no. Like you told me you have 2 kids, you got to put the second one in. And so, same thing here. They know this stuff, they just don't care. All right. So, we want to point this out to them in detail and say, fix every single thing that's wrong, every single thing that's missing, fill it in. If you're not going to fix everything that's wrong, if you're not going to complete everything that is incomplete, then just delete the whole account. It's simple, right? Merle asked a question. Can the credit bureaus delete an account? Absolutely. No question about it. Matter of fact, let me show you. We will, all right. So, let's look at section 1681I. And so I is for investigation. This is for the credit bureau. And let's see here. We'll find it. And so let's just start here. If after any reinvestigation, an item is found to be inaccurate or incomplete or cannot be verified, then promptly delete. Okay, so that's one option, delete. Modify is two. Okay, so that's why we get to this idea you either fix it or you delete it. Okay, now the furnisher has the same option, they can fix it or delete it. Okay, so going back to our dispute letter here, you would just finish up this account. If there's a second account or a fifth account or a 15th account, it doesn't matter. You just keep going through there. And it's really easy once you've marked up your credit report because then you're just following it. Okay. So, oh, okay. Well, you've got this thing that's wrong. Like, let me go back to one of our things here. Yeah, so okay, I know all the missing information. Now, the reason I didn't circle January is this account was actually opened in February of 21, I believe. Yeah, February of 21. But see, like this, we've got November of 21. It says we're current, but November 21, it says this date of first delinquency. So going back to our screen, we would say you say the date of first delinquency is November of 2021. Again, my M key for whatever reason here is not doing so great. Uh, but under the payment history, you show November 2021 as paid on time. It's amazing how important the M key can be here. Please explain and correct both of these or whichever one is incorrect, or delete the entire account. Okay. So again, there's no magic language here. You can vary it up, change up the language a little bit. The point is, have we made it clear that we're saying to Equifax, on the one hand, you say date of first delinquency is here, but when I look in the payment chart, that doesn't match. So the payment chart's wrong, fix it. Or the date of first delinquency is wrong, fix it. Maybe they're both wrong, fix them, or delete the whole account. Now, if let's say a lawsuit comes after this, they won't fix it, they won't delete it, and they go, well, Your Honor, we were so confused. We had no idea what Murley meant by this. Judge is looking at this going, well, I mean, I, I can read it. Apparently, you said date of first delinquency is November 2021, but in the payment history, it says current. And then she attached a copy of her credit report. And sure enough, date of first delinquency circled with an arrow up here to November 21. Like, how could you be confused by that? Now, the answer is they outsource this and they have no controls in place. They have no training. They have no supervision. They're just sending it to a company and then they go, hey, that wasn't us. That was some company in India that we have no idea who the worker was, who the supervisor was. We don't know what their training is. We're not responsible for any of this. Hey, there's nothing wrong with using people to help you, whether they're in country or out of country, but you're responsible for them. Okay. And so they want to pretend, well, we're not responsible for any of this, okay, which is a silly thing. The law says the credit bureau is responsible. And if they notify, for example, Capital One or Discover or Midland Credit, that company is responsible to do their own investigation, okay? We just want to make it clear what we're disputing, what we say the error is, and related to that, why it's wrong. Well, this is what we have written up here, and I'm sure there's some typos here, but what we have written, I think, makes it very clear what is wrong and what they need to do about it. So let me know what your questions are. I'm going to look back at the comments. Um, and if you have some specific questions about what we've talked about or even something else, we can catch that at the end of this. But I just wanted you guys to see just a very simple way. Some people, I think, overcomplicate this. They make you think you have to like quote the law, quote the Metro 2 2022 version of the CDIA guide. You don't need any of that. It's just you're pointing out, here's what's missing, here's what's inaccurate. Fix it or delete it. It's pretty simple. That's all we're doing here. All right, so let me grab these comments. Is incorrect spelling of the reporter's name considered an error? For example, using abbreviation for bankruptcy court? No, not in my view. Okay. I mean, sometimes you'll see like the account name, they may cut off some letters. I have never seen a judge be interested in that. I can't imagine a judge being interested. And I've been suing these companies for 20 years. Okay, we would never bring something like that. We're bringing something where there's missing data, there's contradictory data, there's inaccurate data. Not instead of spelling out bankruptcy, they put BANK period or BKR, something like that. Now, if they put that you filed this in the Northern District of Georgia and you actually filed it Northern District of Alabama, yeah, I would dispute that. Okay. But not just because they put N period D period rather than Northern District. All right. Anthony says, how would we know if the data was put in as accurate and complete? And did they do it? Well, and we covered this in the previous session, and I should have reminded everybody. There's kind of two ways to look at credit reports. One is imagine what you see on the screen here. Okay, let me just pull up so you have to use your imagination. We actually have it here. So this is a credit report, right? So an Equifax report. Now, how do we know that January of 22 we were 30 days late? Well, we either accept what they say in our report or we go get the proof. If we get the proof, now we're going outside of the credit report. We're saying, here's my bank records. Here's a monthly statement from this company that shows I was totally current in January 22. We're using something external outside of the credit report to disprove something in the credit report. That's totally fine. Okay. We might be identity theft, and we go, here's my FTC fraud affidavit. Here's my police report. You guys say I had an apartment in Wyoming and I've always lived in Alabama, like whatever it is. Okay. Nothing wrong with going outside. But if you're going outside, you have to get the proof. Okay. So I'll have people say to me, John, I was never late those months. That's okay. Go pull your bank records and show me where you made the payments. Show me the statements from the credit card company where they received that money. And they go, well, I'm not going to do all that. John, will you do that? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not, this isn't bring your shoebox full of documents and I'm going to like pour through them. If you made the payment, you made the payment, go prove it. Okay. But otherwise, and this is true 95% of the time, we're just relying what's on the credit report. And we're saying, okay, this says we paid on time November 2021, but yet we go down here, it says date of first delinquency is November 2021. So Equifax, this is your own data, nothing outside, right? This is all within the report. It's contradictory or it's missing. There's a lot of power in that. So you bring something outside, they can go, well, we don't know if that's legitimate. Maybe you forged it. I love when we just take their own data within the report and we say, look at your own data, Equifax. It's wrong. It's inaccurate. It's incomplete. It's contradictory. And then it's hard for them when they don't fix it, they don't delete the account to then say, well, how are we supposed to know? Well, you should know. Remember this example. You should know, Equifax, when it says over 120 days past due and then the payment history it says 90, that those aren't the same thing. Okay. You don't have to be a genius computer engineer to know that. You don't have to be a professor of logic to know that. You just have to like barely glance at it and you would know it. But beyond that, I pointed out to you. I told you in the letter and I showed you in the credit report. And so there's a lot of power in just taking what they say. But again, if you know something's different, if you say, well, I know I paid that off 3 months before I say they did, then go get the proof. The frustration I have is when clients come to me and say, John, I paid this off 3 months before the credit report says it. I go, great, let's show it. And they go, well, just put it in the letter. Well, we got to have proof. And they go, well, I'm not going to take time to look through my bank records for that. I'm not going to go, request past copies of checks. I'm not going to do that for you. Okay. I can't do that for you. You have to do that. And so there's sort of an old line, about sort of social work. I'm not your social worker. I can't care more about this than you do. Okay. So if you say there's something that's happened outside, then go prove it. And for people that come to my firm that say, I'm telling you, I paid this off, but I'm not willing to go put in any effort, then I go, well, then too bad. Like, we're not going to argue that, okay? Because we're not going to make some claim that we can't back up. Remember, the whole point of what we're doing is saying to the credit bureau, it's not complete, it's not accurate. Well, we don't want to be just throwing wild statements out there that turn out to be incorrect. We want everything we do to be accurate and complete because we're demanding that they be accurate, that they be complete. All right. So let's see. Murley says the 1681 say delete the account or delete the information you disputed, keep the account. Well, it's sort of both. Okay, they can delete the information that's incorrect. Like, let's say there's a 30-day late and we show them that we actually paid on time. Here's my bank statement. Here's a monthly statement from the company saying, thank you for making your payment 3 days early. You've never been late. Here's a letter from the company saying, we swear you've never been late any time in your life. Well, then what the credit bureau should do is remove that 30-day, but they can always delete the account. And so what we say to them is fix everything that's wrong, which means delete the wrong information, put in the correct information, fill in anything that's missing, or delete the whole account. So we always give them that option. Just delete the account, which again is why we only dispute, at least in my firm, you can do whatever you want, but I'm telling you, we've been doing this for 20 years. We only dispute things that we would be happy if they were deleted. So I tell my clients there's three possibilities. They're going to delete the account. Hey, we're happy because we only dispute stuff we'd be happy being deleted. They're going to fix it. Hey, you can't complain if they make your account 100% complete and accurate. Or number three, they're not going to fix it. They're not going to delete it. Evidently, what they're saying to you, they're doing a cry for help, saying, please, please, we're begging you, please sue us so we can delete the account and pay you and your lawyer money. Hey, my clients are good people. They're not going to turn down a cry for help. Okay. They'll accommodate the credit bureau. They'll accommodate Capital One or Midland or LVNV, and they'll sue them. Okay. Because evidently that's what the credit bureau wants. That's what the furnisher wants. They want to not only delete the account, but they want to pay you money. Hey, that's fine. Okay. And the reason that they can be required to do that is if we've done a dispute that's proper and we identify everything, we say exactly what's inaccurate, what's incomplete, then it puts these defendants in a really bad position. And they either have to fight it and say, hey, we think we can convince a jury, even though we've got this stuff wrong, we weren't negligent. Okay, maybe they can. Or they have to settle and say, all right, how do we make this right? Well, delete the account, pay money. That's sort of the simple solution here. All right, let's see. Merle, dispute account history. They delete account history. Account's still on. Yeah, so what Merle's talking about is imagine that, let's go back to, we'll grab our TransUnion report. They're kind of bad about doing this. They will just sort of delete all of the stuff that's on the screen, except the rating. We say, okay, you made it more incomplete. not less than complete, right? Let me rephrase it. Instead of making it complete, you made it even less than complete. All right. And remember, in our letter, we're asking for our full, complete file disclosure. If TransUnion has this information in their files, that means they got to give it to me. Now, they would argue, and there are all sorts of legal arguments, sort of gymnastics they try to jump through. But the statute's pretty clear. Whatever the credit bureau has, with very few exceptions, they have to give you a copy of it. And so that's why we ask for it. And then usually when they don't give it to us, we follow up and we, hey, if you don't give me everything that's in my file, how can I know what to dispute? Okay, they still won't give it to you. So we sort of catch them either way. Either they've left inaccurate, incomplete information, or they've deleted and made it even more incomplete, and they're refusing to give us our full file disclosure. All right, Warren, is this a good small claims case when not fixed or deleted? I never bring these in small claims. I mean, we bring these as jury demands. These cases have significant value. So I would never bring one of these in small claims. I mean, it's why cut off your damages? It makes no sense to me. There's sort of a little movement out there like, oh, do this pro se, do it in small claims court. I can tell you because I deal with the lawyers all the time. The credit bureaus love it when you do that because I mean, I know some of the credit bureau lawyers that go around a small claims case and they're like, we win 99% of these. Okay. And the ones that they'll pay, 500 bucks when you could have got 10, 20 times that amount. Okay. And it like they love when you do that. So it's sort of a rule of thumb is if the credit bureaus go right, you go left. If they slow down, you speed up. You want to do the opposite of what they want. All right. Diana says, can a collection company like Midland Credit reopen the collection account when it was closed? And they also report the balance decreased by $1. So I'd have to know what you mean by it was closed. And let me fix something here so I can sort of see this. Okay. So if they decrease the balance by $1, I would just want to know, well, why did they decrease it? Like, did we pay $1? Like, because that needs to be accurate. And again, I need to know what you mean by they reopened it when it was closed. Now, it may have been closed with Synchrony Bank and then sold to Midland. And most of the bureaus will report the open date for a collector. And sometimes this is confusing. It's like, hey, I opened this account in 2005, but Midland says they opened it in 2021. Well, for Midland, the open date is when they received it. Okay. Doesn't change how long it'll stay on your credit report. That's why we need to know that date of first delinquency, the date we first went 30 days delinquent and never brought it current. Okay. Let's see. Anthony says, what if you have some accounts deleted, reinserted? So if you've done a dispute, an account's been deleted by, let's say, Experian, and then Experian puts it back on your report, they have to notify you 5 business days before doing that with a letter saying, hey, we took this off, now we're putting it back on. I honestly have never seen them do that. That in and of itself is a violation. Now you'd probably want to dispute the account again, point out, I did this dispute back here, you guys deleted it, you put it back on, you didn't notify me, what's going on, fix this. Now, even if they fix it, I'd still sue them because they have to give you that 5-day notice. All right, let's see. Latanya, I dispute child support date of first delinquency because it doesn't show one. Furnishers won't tell me over the phone only. What should I do? Well, you certainly can ask the furnisher, what's the date of first delinquency? Okay, they have to know what that is. All right, normally they will tell you. So if when you call, and obviously you have to make your own decision or get with a lawyer to help you with this decision. But I can tell you for our clients, if they're calling a company and the company says, please be advised, all calls may be recorded, sounds like permission, record the call. And so if they tell us over the phone, hey, date of first delinquency is June, 2019, and TransUnion saying this is going to stay on your credit report till, the year 2029, I'm going, well, that doesn't sound quite right unless it's a 10-year period. Normally it's 7. And so you can ask the credit bureau, like, hey, what is the date of first delinquency? Equifax will show you, but the others won't. Why aren't you showing me this? Such and such told me over the phone that this was date of first delinquency. I have a recording of that call on Dropbox, on Google Doc, on OneDrive, whatever it is. Here's a link to the call. Maybe do a little QR code. You can scan in this, go listen to it. It's at the 7-minute, 14-second mark. Now, they'll never do that, but the point is you gave them that option, okay? So they can hear the call themselves, all right? Let's see. Can you or do you know a lawyer who will take a case like this in PA? So, Warren, get with me on that. We're starting to have the lawyers um, want us to reach out to them. I'm talking about the credit bureau lawyers, even sometimes before we file suit. So, in the right circumstance, I'll say to them, hey, we have a client in this state. I can bring the lawsuit in Alabama. If you want me to bring it in, for example, Pennsylvania, I'll bring it there. I'll get local counsel there. Yeah, you guys tell me what you want to do. And um, for most of the time, they just want to get to the resolution. Okay. So as long as we can correctly and properly bring it in Alabama, then I don't mind doing that. But just get with me. Let me see, what exactly we have. All right, Merle, it's 2-year statute of limitations. FCRA kicks in from the date on this dispute letter you sent. So it would actually be 2 years from the date of violation. So the dispute letter, let's say we write it today, they get it Monday. The 2 years is not from today, it's not from Monday, it's from whenever they do their lousy investigation. And they say, now the investigation is complete. We're not fixing, we're not deleting. Boom, that would be the 2-year mark. Now, to be safe, it's always better if you go by, your dispute letter. Okay. There's also an EB claim. So section 1681 EB, it's called maximum possible accuracy. That's going to be from when they provided a copy of your credit report to a user, not you, but a bank, a collector, a credit card company, mortgage company, whoever it may be, employer, insurance company, and it had bad information that they should have known was incorrect, then that would be the trigger point for 2 years. Sometimes if you don't know about it, you can extend that. But anyway, that's hopefully gives you a good start. All right, Murley, giving the impending expiry of the FDCPA and FCRA 1 years and 2 years, ongoing state court lawsuit, debt collector, would you consider initiating a lawsuit under the FDCPA, FCRA before limitation period? Um, yeah, so there are times where you have to decide, I've got this potential FCRA claim against LVNB, Midland, Portfolio Recovery. Should I bring it while the state court case is going on, or should I not? Usually the answer is to bring it, not always. Okay. This is where you really have to get with the lawyer in your state to say, okay, what's the danger of that state debt collection lawsuit? And am I better off bringing up this federal claim or sort of waiting? Okay. Sometimes if you bring it up, it makes the company get more aggressive and more competent, basically, in the state collection case. But usually what happens is they become very interested in resolving the collection case. Okay. So it may be, hey, Merle, you drop your case against us, we'll drop our case against you, we'll get this off your credit report, everybody have global peace. And that may or may not be what you want. Anthony says, I know any lawyers in Florida. I do. So, Anthony, just get with me. You can either reply to, one of the notifications about this webinar, or john@wattsherring.com or alabamaconsumer.com. Just let me know what part of the state you're in. Okay. Are you in Tampa? Are you in Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, the Panhandle? Like, where are you? And then give me a summary of what's going on. You know, hey, I've got 4 accounts that are identity theft. I've done an FTC fraud report. I've got police report. I've disputed half a dozen times to the credit bureaus. They won't get it off. I've lost a job. I lost a mortgage. Or is it, hey, I've looked at my credit reports. I haven't disputed one thing. Okay. There's nothing wrong with either one of those. It just helps me to know because, like in my firm, we will help our clients to go through the dispute process. There are some lawyers who say, no, 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 you've got to do every dispute and you have to bring it to me and then I'll look at it. Okay. So I need to know what you've got before I say, hey, go talk to this lawyer or go talk to this other lawyer. And depending on the value of the case, it may be if you're in Pensacola and it's a small value case, a lawyer in Miami is not going to help you. Okay. But if it's a big value case, then they don't care where you are. All right. So just let me know what's going on and, just give me a summary and also let me know if I have your permission to share the information with the Florida lawyer. Warren says, do you ever sue debt collector for FDCPA claims for inquiries? Um, we have, okay. Um, Usually not under the FDCPA, usually under the FCRA. So let's say that Midland has sued me and they lost, they didn't appeal it, and they pull my credit report the next month. Now, I have to sort of account for it. Could be a new account that they're pulling my report for, but if I'm confident it's for the account they lost, then they had no right to pull my credit report. So that's an FCRA violation. Now I might put in FDCPA as well, but really it's FCRA. Okay. So that's the way that I typically handle it. So, well, listen, guys, thanks for being here. And I know it's been a while since I've done one of these. We'll try to get back on schedule. Let me know. You can just email me. Do you like the Saturday? Is that better than during the week? Not sure I can do it every Saturday, but we can try to get into a little better rhythm, and we'll just pick up in our next time with sort of continuing. Okay, we started off, let's get our real reports. Let's identify the errors. Now let's type the dispute letter up. Okay, what happens next? And so maybe the next session we'll talk more about, what do you package up with your letter? How do you get your letter out? How do you track it? How do you know when you should have a response back? What do you do when you get the response back? So, and any topics you guys have, just shoot me an email and we'll grab those. So, um, okay, well, hey, thanks for all the comments, and you guys have a fabulous rest of your weekend, and I will catch you guys later. Have a good one. Bye bye.